tifu by temporarily breaking up with my Dutch girlfriend after declaring my love. This happened about 7 years ago. I'm South African and was dating a Dutch girl at the time. For those of you who don't know my home language, Afrikaans and Dutch are pretty similar linguistically speaking. We have about a 70% overlap in vocabulary, words. However, the meaning of the same word in both languages sometimes means something totally different. I was dating this girl for around 9 months. She flew down to South Africa and I took her to one of our national parks on one of the weekends. On the last evening of her visit, we were sitting next to a large open lake. As I looked at her, a sudden rush of emotions occurred. I took her hands in mine, looked her in the eyes and said, in English, "I love you." This was the first time I've said that. For a moment I thought I caught her off guard, but she looks at me with a straight face and says in Dutch, "Ik hou van je," which in Afrikaans means I like you. I felt this strong pain hit my chest as we had already talked about moving in together, etc. This hit me so hard that I couldn't look at her. Still needing to keep face, I said, "I think we should go back to the hotel." Over the course of the next few hours I became ever increasingly distant. She wanted to initiate sexy time, but I kept rejecting her attempts, saying that I'm not in the mood. The next morning we checked out and we drove to the airport. Upon arrival, I dropped her off departure's gate and thanked her for a lovely time, told her that things have become clearer to me over the course of the evening and that I don't think we should see each other anymore. She, of course, burst into tears, took her bags and left my car. We didn't text for 2 days. On the third day she sent me a text asking why I broke up with her. I explained that it hit me really hard, that I declared my love for her and my feelings weren't reciprocated. Perplexed, she phones me, and the mature shat that I am, I rejected the call. She sent me a voice note saying she doesn't understand, as when I said I loved her, she said it back. Long story short, apparently the word how, that is like in Afrikaans, means love in Dutch. Man, did I fudge up. In the end we could laugh about it and decided never to speak in Dutch again. We only lasted another 8 months after this incident, though for other reasons. TL. Doctor, I declared my love for my Dutch girlfriend and she responded in Dutch with "I like you." I broke up with her the next day and was only later informed that the word like in Afrikaans means love in Dutch. Edit 1. For some context, there were other, more serious issues that occurred, and this was the straw that broke the camel's back. One was that she was actually in a relationship with someone else, and I was the side guy, as she didn't think I would leave my job and life in SA to move to NL. Edit 2. What happened afterwards? Some people asked. Well, I moved to the Netherlands for her, and she then moved in with me. She didn't work, and well, let's just say she really liked Africans, had a lot of spare time while I was at work, and apparently one African wasn't enough to satisfy her. Well, it's good that you didn't get with a Flemish girl, because there's some even more indirect ways to declare love, like "Ik zie je graag," I like to see you. Resembles a story I heard some guy telling on the radio some years ago. This Dutch guy was dating a Belgian girl, so both officially speak Dutch, but Belgian is actually Flemish. Let's call it a dialect, although it's not. Guy keeps saying "Ik hou van je," translates to "I love you." Girl keeps replying "Ik zie je ook graag," literal translation "I enjoy looking at you." There was some confusion at the start of their relation. That's a funny story when you look back on it, lol. It is a shame it did not last. While explaining to a colleague that I messed up my computer settings, I used the word nuke, which in Afrikaans means you screwed it up. Walking away I realized, thinking about how I had specifically told myself to remember this, that in Dutch it literally means you screwed your computer, physically. I learned Afrikaans when I lived in Cape Town. The South Africans were sure you could communicate with a Dutch speaking person in Afrikaans, but the Dutch people I speak with have often said no and have been quite disparaging, snobbish, towards Afrikaans. This is possibly a good example. It is troubling that the only logical step you could think to take was to break up with her and not, I don't know, talking about it. Maybe, then you would have discovered your fudge-oop. But even if it wasn't a fudge-oop, you'd find out she might have had a valid reason to not be ready to say it. Tifu indeed. D. And people believe romcoms cannot happen in real life. I was reading your Reddit and I was like, oh cool, a happy ending. and then I read the rest of it. Sorry man. Man, you fucked up XD. As in Dutchy I can say that Afrikaans and Dutch are similar, but the words mean different things. Same in German. BTW, sorry that SHW cheated on you. You deserve better, fudge the right. Or bro, that second edit broke my fucking heart. After all of the crap you guys went through, she went and fucking cheated on you? What the hell is wrong with people? Is being loyal really so difficult? Fudgy man. I'm sorry. Hope you're doing better. This reminds me of the person that asked the waiter in the Netherlands to show me panties instead of receipt by accident because of Afrikaans and Dutch having same words with different meaning. It was me as well. Mayo, I knew it. This is one of the reasons why I find languages that share words interesting. My mom said something in Afrikaans to someone at her work. Her lot spoke English, Afrikaans and another language. My mom's English was quite broken BTW. So some words she says in Africa. But she told me that the person she was talking to thought that my mom was proposing. So that was funny. Edit. They had known each other for a few years, but my mom was in a relationship. My future wife and I met after both being in seriously toxic relationships. We decided early that we were just going to be friends with benefits. Well, eventually I developed feelings for her. Told her I loved her in a not so romantic fashion while I was having a shower, and she brought me a towel and she didn't say anything. So intelligently I ended our arrangement. Stayed that way for several months. Started seeing other people until we bumped into each other randomly. She told me I hurt her. I told her she hurt me. She reminded me that I was the one. Her lot didn't want to be in love with anyone. Yeah, well, we are married now and have 3 kids. I still remember my GF when she went to Malaysia after so many years to visit. There are a few words that sound similar but mean totally different things. So when the taxi driver asked if she ever visited Malaysia, instead of saying she hasn't visited for about 12 years, she said I've just been dead for 12 years. Which of course doesn't help if your cab driver is very superstitious. After that it was an awkward cab ride. Dude, my first experience with a Dutch woman was the same. I was the side guy, just like you. We met in the States. She didn't think I would actually come to the Netherlands for her, but I did. Didn't last long either. Lol, had a similar situation with my ex-boyfriend. He was Russian and not very good with German. We very recently moved in together and I said I wanted to go for a walk to clear my head. He said he would join, but first change into something more warm. I said, okay, dan zie de chum, which means, well, then change. He then was very distant and pissed. I didn't understand until he said that he understood dan zie move out. Close bracket. To this day I don't know how he could misinterpret. Maybe I was too harsh in my tone. This story reminds of my parents. My parents grew up speaking the same language, but in different dialects. Their friends often ask why English is the primary language in their home, because it's not their native tongue. They speak English around 60-70% of the time. My parents always respond with less misunderstandings, less things to argue about. Apostrophe. From an American that lived in Amsterdam for 8 years and having almost no overlap of words other than English and Dutch both being on the Germanic language tree, you pretty much F that up. South African here. Was just explaining to my Canadian so yesterday about how Afrikaans and Dutch are confusingly similar yet different. Sorry that happened to you, man. I would have thought the same thing. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.